guys, and welcome back to another Interstellar Modeler HFO. In this video, we're going to spend a little time with modeler Ken Spriggs, who really enjoys building dioramas. A good diorama will use a lot of different features and elements to tell a story in much the same way a painting or photograph would. In this video, he'll share some of his ideas of how he comes up with his creations, and he'll share some of his work with us. Let's go ahead and modeler Ken Spriggs. Well, hi Ken.
Hello there, Augie. How you doing?
Yeah, welcome to Interstellar Modeler. Thanks for being on.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, let's go ahead and get started and tell us how you got started with model building to begin with.
Well, I grew up. I was born in 1961, so I grew up in the 60s and 70s as a child, which I kind of look at as the heyday of science fiction models.
Yeah.
With Aurora models and all the Irwin Allen things. So I was really heavily into that from the beginning. My first model kit was the Land of the Giants Spindrift from Aurora.
Oh, yeah.
My first science fiction. My first actual model was the Hawk Vanguard, Project Vanguard.
Oh, okay.
Which, to just show things to come, I didn't really want the satellite, so I took the two little clear domes and I put them together and made a flying saucer out of it. So that was kind of my beginning scratch build.
Yeah.
But once I got the Land of the Giants, I just loved the little people in it and the interior, and it just got me hooked.
Now, one of the things that you do really well, in my opinion, I'm sure a lot of people share this opinion, are dioramas. And, you know, everybody likes to see a diorama. I know when I go to model shows, it's one of the things that you get drawn to. And I think part of the reason is it's just a different level of modeling, and when you look at a diorama, it's not only the main piece or the main model that you've built there as the subject, but also there's just a lot going on. It's kind of like looking at a painting. There's a lot of things to look at, a lot of things for your eyes to roam around and see, and it just draws in the viewer into a whole different world, if you will. So in your opinion, first of all, what do you think makes a good diorama?
When I first got back into building like 5 years ago, I was having a hard time finishing some kits because my skills were still a little rusty. The one I did finish at first, which isn't one of these ones, was the Invaders Flying Saucer. I built a little diorama with it. It was kind of juvenile-ish and not one of my best works, but the thing I didn't like about it was that it was square. The saucer was center. And a lot of the materials I used were some of the model railroading things, which were just plain, no airbrushing, and it didn't look realistic. So a couple of things I try to do is, one, stay away from square, round, just your generic shapes for the diorama. Try to go with something a little more oddly, randomly shaped. And sometimes the subject will pick that for you, like the Mos Eisley.
Sure.
What I was going to build. And then I think there's a couple different types of diorama. One would be like a strict interpretation, like the Mos Eisley. I'm trying to imitate a real scene from a real movie. So you're kind of within the constraints of what that thing should really look like, with some little bit of leeway. Other builds would be like my Land of the Giants, which is purely imagination.
Yeah.
Wasn't trying to build an actual desk that I had when I was a kid or anything like that. It's just it's paying homage to what I did. And then the third one is kind of a mix, like the Thing from Another World. It has some elements from the film, but it's not an actual scene from the film that had all those elements in it.
I guess this leads me to my next question then, is when you're designing a diorama, it's to me it's almost like being a director. You're positioning everything, you're telling your subjects where they're going to be in the scene, and you have one shot to tell your story. So that being the framework to start from, what goes through your mind, or what thought process do you go through to design a diorama?
So depending on the diorama, certainly, like I said, some of them, like the Mos Eisley, I ended up building that after one that I saw on YouTube, which I believe was a build-up at a convention for the Perfect Grade for Bandai. And it was that same type of thing, with the cutaway and that sort of thing. So I kind of patterned it after that. Now, as far as some of the other ones, like the Land of the Giants, I had some leeway, but I deliberately didn't want to, again, make it look artificial by putting it straight dead center. So I deliberately made it kind of cockeyed it's hanging off the desk a bit, that the instructions are hanging off, so it would look a little more natural. Now the thing from Another World, I mulled over that one for quite a while to get that down to where I needed it to be. When I reach the point where I start seeing the elements together and I start getting the feel for it and it starts to click and it feels good, that's when I know that I've hit onto the right pattern.
That's great. Well, they look fantastic. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of your work. So let's go ahead and get started with one of my favorites that you've done. That's the Land of the Giants diorama, which I saw at Wonderfest. And first of all, this is the smaller version that was released by Polar Lights. Is that right?
Actually, it's Mobius, oddly enough.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mobius, yeah.
Did the bigger one, and Mobius did the smaller one, which I always thought was kind of odd. I didn't know why that was.
Yeah. And can you tell us how you came up with this concept?
I initially thought about doing an outdoor diorama like you see it in the TV show in the woods. But it was hard with the scale because, first of all, that kit isn't a full size. In the show, it's smaller. So I ended up trying to think of some other ideas, and that's when I thought on the idea of the desk. And putting it on it. And so once I designed the desk and got that built out of balsa wood and ready to go, like I said, I decided to put the kit kind of at an odd position. I wanted you to be able to see the lighting of it, see the interior nicely. So I kind of positioned it that way so it's facing you towards the front, so you can look into the interior. And then I positioned the top. I was definitely going to leave the top off of it so you can see the interior and have that going off in another direction kind of behind it.
Cool.
And then the robot, he goes the other direction. So just to kind of even out the imagery, put the robot on the other side of the desk. And then I had the boxes and the shelves, so I kind of, positioned those so they would kind of even it out.
So is the robot kind of like just another project that happens to be being worked on here as well, or?
Well, the idea behind it is that when I was a kid, I certainly started scratch building some stuff, and even playing with electronics and stuff, tearing apart things. So the idea is I tore apart the robot, and his arm is off, and I took the light out of it to light up the spin drift.
Okay.
So that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic, and that was displayed at Wonderfest, right?
Yes.
Did you win any? Did you win any
Yes,
awards?
I won a bronze award for it. Also for the Millennium Falcon, and then I won a first place at IPMS Nationals for the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, very nice. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the Millennium Falcon. I have some footage here from 2017 Comic-Con, which I took of the diorama that inspired you. And what I love about this is, you and I were around when the original movie came out. And so there were no, added CGI effects. So some of this was left to your imagination. I just remember seeing that scene. All you saw was the Falcon just blasting off. And inside my mind, it went from the stormtrooper shooting at the Falcon to the Falcon just blasting off. And this kind of fills in that moment.
Well, like I said, I patterned it after that. And I think it's probably the same one that I saw the YouTube video for. I pretty much borrowed a lot from what they were showing as far as the cutaway and the curves of it. Mine's a whole lot more smaller scale, so I mainly just focused on the left side. Initially, I was thinking of having it further down in and coming up out. Once I built it and built the tower, it then kind of dictated itself that it had to be further over to the left. Because of where the tower was. But it worked out as well because I wanted to be able to be very visible for the cockpit lights, the gunner station, and the back engine. So with it going sideways, you could go to the left side or the right side, and you could see all the lights on it very easily.
And tell us a bit about the structure that you built. So all that obviously was scratch built then.
Yes, the entire Mos Eisley is scratch built. The main core of it is green insulation foam.
Okay.
But that's when I first got a wire foam cutter. From Hobby Lobby, which I've used many times.
Oh, okay.
It has a base that it clicks into. So very nice. I've used that many times. So I cut out all the pieces, and each of those are separate little pieces. And then I cut out styrene, and each of those are cut out separate pieces of styrene to cover it to make up the little blocks and the different parts of that.
And then the model, the Falcon model itself, which model is this now?
That's the Bandai 1350.
Okay, And then the little stormtroopers down at the very bottom there?
Those are actually N-scale children figures from like a model railroad from Walthers, I believe. And I had to use the children because even the adults were too big, and I couldn't find anything in 1350 scale.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And again, which award did you win for this one now?
That one I won 2 awards. I won bronze at Wonderfest, and I won first place in science fiction vehicles at IPMS Nationals in Chattanooga.
Wow, congratulations. Definitely well deserved. That's beautiful. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on now to the last one we're going to talk about. This is your latest project, and this is based on a film, is that right?
It's called The Thing from Another World from 1951. It was the original that was then remade into John Carpenter's The Thing in 82.
Okay.
But it was an old black and white movie where James Arness, who played Gunsmoke, played
Matt Dillon.
And basically he just had a jumpsuit on, probably some old Frankenstein head makeup or something to make it look scary, and some claws.
And this took place in the Arctic?
Yes,
North
it took
Pole,
place at the Arctic. They found a flying saucer frozen, and he was frozen. So he melts out, and of course, they immediately start shooting at him, and he gets attacked by sled dogs. They light him on fire with kerosene, and they end up electrocuting him at the end, and he melts down, and it's destroyed.
So tell us then about the scene that we're looking at here. So we see the main character there. He looks like he's holding a piece of wood that he's broken off from something, and we've got the wolves there. It's
kind of an amalgam, or kind of an image of several different parts from the movie. We just see bits and pieces at first. We don't see him fully till the end of the film. But there's one scene where he's attacked by the sled dogs. There's another scene where he breaks in and they douse him in kerosene and catch him on fire. And he runs off to the snow. And then the final scene is he's inside this hallway, and he has the big board, and they had wired the power into the floor, so they zap him with electricity, and he just fries and gets killed. So I wanted to have all those elements into it. So that's what I put into it. So I have the gasoline can instead of kerosene. I have the post with the power box on it, and of course the dog's trying to attack him.
Yeah, nice. And this gave you the opportunity to use your skills to weather these pieces, right?
Oh, quite a bit of weathering. And actually, it's a combination. The figure himself is kit bashed and sculpted, because that's not an actual kit.
Okay.
So I had to. I looked around for one, but I couldn't find any. I saw 1 or 2 on the internet, some pictures, but I couldn't find anybody selling it. So I took a Frankenstein model from Mobius, and that's his torso, his arms, his head, his hands, and then I took the Invisible Man and his legs.
Okay.
And I cut them into different positions, and then I used epoxy sculpt to mold his entire upper torso, his hands, his arms, his whole head.
Yeah, and changing the costume to look that way.
Yes.
Wow,
that's fantastic. To look like to look like him. He has some weathering on him as well with some oil paints. But the trickiest part that I found was doing the snow, because I tried a few materials that just did not look natural. Like there's called Snowtex at Hobby Lobby, but it has a uniform grain to it, and it just didn't look realistic. I tried some of the powdered snows, like from Model Railroads, and I didn't like that either. So I ended up going with, I used a lot of material called Smooth Finish. It's like a foam paste. And you can put it on, and you can add water to it and thin it out and make it thicker. It hardens the foam overnight. And then you can paint it, you can weather it, and then I'd use some different techniques with some paints. The one that worked the best in the end was to put a gloss coat over it, and then use some Abtalung 502 oils with like Starship Filth, and even some white oils to put just dabs of it on for the snow. And I had to.
Well, the snow looks very convincing. It looks fantastic. And as I was following your build, I noticed that you did use oils to do some of this weathering here, particularly with rust and this rust stains and things of that sort. So oils is something that you resort to for weathering then, huh?
Yes, I really prefer the oils. I have some of the Tamiya weathering powders, which I've used, but I always go back to the oils. I ended up using some of the powders because they have one that's snow, it's just white, and so that worked out as a nice blending coat where I could just dust that over him and dust it over the dogs and dust it over the telephone pole and the other things. So it almost acted as a blending coat, so they all had that kind of that white, misty look upon it.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. Now, one other thing I wanted to make note of is the sign that you made for this. So you had this made?
Yeah, that's it's a block of acrylic that I had laser etched by a local awards place. It was actually very reasonable. It was only about $10.
Oh, really?
Have it made. I went online and found an image of that logo, and just gave it to him, and he just etched out the actual words into the clear acrylic. Then it's angled in the crate, and underneath it, I have 4 blue flickering SMDs.
Okay, great.
And
yeah, it looks fantastic.
Flicker offset so that it looks like it's kind of the original film. That's how it opens up, like it's burning and it's showing the thing from another world.
Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna have to watch that film. I don't think
I
know I haven't seen it.
It's one of my favorites. It's a great classic.
Yeah, that's great. Fantastic. All right. Well, as we wrap it up, I want to get to these 5 quick answer questions I always like to ask. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So your all-time favorite sci-fi movie?
That's an easy one. The Matrix. Matrix is my favorite movie. Not the second or third.
The first one.
The first one is my favorite.
All right, very good. And favorite sci-fi movie director?
My all-time favorite, I have to say, would have to be James Cameron.
Okay.
Only because he has so many classics. Terminator. Judgment Day. Aliens.
Favorite all-time sci-fi spaceship?
My favorite all-time spaceship would have to be the Millennium Falcon.
Okay, that's a great choice. Yeah,
that's a great ship.
And favorite part of model building? That could be a technique, painting, weathering.
I really like the weathering, and I've been doing a lot more of that, even on some kits that you wouldn't necessarily think would need it, like the Invisible Man, for example. When I built that, I did some weathering techniques on the table and the bookcase. Give it a wood grain finish. And
lastly, what else would you like to try with model building?
Well, I'm definitely getting into 3D printing. In fact, I have a 3D printer coming in the mail tomorrow.
That'll be fun. Definitely look for all this future work from you there. You do a fantastic job with all your projects. So is there anything else you'd like to add here or to say to the modeling community?
When I first got back into building again about 5 or 6 years ago, it was rough going, and I have the majority of the kits from that time remain unbuilt today because my skills just weren't at that point. They just weren't at that level, and I would get frustrated, so I would quit it and do something else. Then I get frustrated with that. So what I would say is you're not going to enjoy doing this hobby if you get frustrated, of course, but at the same time, if you don't push yourself to some degree, you're not going to hone your skills and get better and be able to do some of the more advanced things. So go beyond your comfort levels, but at the same time try not to push too far or aim too high that you get frustrated. And if you have to put it aside temporarily, put it aside, come back to it, try to finish it, and then I didn't have these skills 5 years ago, believe me, even probably 3 years ago.
That's great advice because you can easily go to a model store and you'll see these kits that we all wanted as a kid, and there's a lot of choices out there now, and you just want to jump into it. But you're right, it takes a bit of patience to get up to a certain level so that you can be satisfied with what you end up with in the end.
That's the thing too. I mean, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to fail and you're going to have things that are not satisfying. My first time at Wonderfest, which would have been 2.5 years ago, I left after the first day because quite honestly, I was embarrassed. My kit was a joke to me based on what I saw there. I'm like, I'm out of my element here.
Yeah, and one real quick word about Wonderfest. That is such a fantastic show to go to. If any of you guys have not made it there, I mean, that's where I actually first met Ken in person, although we had corresponded online for a bit before then. But you certainly can be a bit overwhelmed. But hopefully, one thing that you will be is inspired. Because there are a lot of different models that are there from all kinds of different genres, and it's just fantastic what people do, the creativity. And I'm going to extend this to you because I look at your dioramas, and it's just the creativity, the thought process that goes behind it is just it never ceases to amaze me. So definitely keep up the good work. You're doing great work out there. And I also wanted to remind the audience here that you also have a YouTube channel. And a lot of these builds that we've shown you here, particularly with the thing, most recently, you can follow Ken as he puts it together, so you can be inspired as well.
Yeah,
all right, very good. Well, thanks, Ken, for being on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. Well, happy modeling.
I love your channel. Absolutely.
Thank you. All right.
And you've inspired me too, Augie. Certainly, some of my builds, like the Invisible Man, I was inspired by seeing you build that kit, and an amazing job you did. So it definitely piques my interest, so I want to try these same kits because of like seeing the techniques and things like that you use. So.
Oh, great. Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. All right, Ken. Well, I'll be in touch. You take care.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
Thanks.